Welcome to Inspiring Narratives, your favorite channel for uplifting stories, renewed hope, and cultivating a deeper connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Discover with me how turning to Allah can lead you to amazing changes in your life. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are back with another uplifting story that will, by the grace of Allah, strengthen your faith and renew your hope, inshallah. Let's start by sending peace and blessings on our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Say it with me, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Pour yourself a cup of something you love, get comfortable, and let's get started with our story. Today's story is a beautiful story, mashallah. Our sister says, my story happened to me over about 10 years ago or more. I got divorced. It was a shock for me, and on the day of the divorce, I felt as if the divorce was like being struck by a bullet in my back. It was a shock for my family as well, because I was the first person in the family to experience divorce. I fell into a state of shock. The children stayed with me. During this time, I held on to hope that maybe he would change and take us back. But my family said that's it, telling me to move on, as it had been 2 months and he was enjoying his life. He started to negatively influence the children even when they were with me, and asked them about private matters concerning my family. This began to frustrate me, and my father too was annoyed. My father was preparing to go for Umrah, and I was genuinely worried he might leave while upset. I consider my father irreplaceable, while the children could return and stay with their father. I left them with him. He made things very difficult for me when it came to visiting my children, intentionally trying to hurt me emotionally and stubbornly opposing anything I requested related to the children. Seeing them became very difficult. If I wanted to see them, there would always be some excuse, claiming certain circumstances or other reasons, making it impossible to see them. At one point, they visited me weekly, but later he would not allow it for 2 to 3 months at a time. Once, I did not see them for 4 months. My mental state was destroyed. I barely left my room. That period was truly a crisis for me and those around me. However, despite this severe hardship, my faith in Allah was strong, alhamdulillah. But how can a mother's heart not ache for her children? Every night my pillow would be soaked with tears. I tried to create a positive environment for my children when they were around. But there came a time when he would say to me, if you want them, take them. And I would reply, no, I want all of us to be together. I wanted our family to be reunited. I felt that the divorce was unfair to me. He divorced me just because his father told him to, and he obeyed him word for word. His family's interference in the tiniest details of our lives was frustrating, not to mention the indirect insults I would hear about my family, which was very hurtful. After the first 6 months passed, I tried everything. People close to me intervened, and others tried to reconcile us, aiming to reunite our family, but to no avail. It was as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling me, you want to do everything by yourself? Now see what your solutions will bring. I exhausted every option, even when my children would ask, Mum, why can't you get back together? I kept giving them hope, because I had hope, while he would tell them, your mum is dead, and he didn't want anyone mentioning me around him. When my children visited, they were young. My son was 6 and my daughter was 4. They would come and play with clay, shaping it into images of trees, a house and a farm and water, saying this is our home. They would draw, pack up their things and take them back. Imagine him telling them, it's impossible, we will never get back together. While he said impossible, I said, with Allah, nothing is impossible. My brother would comfort me, advising me to read Surah Yusuf alayhi salam and remind myself of the story of Prophet Yusuf, and how Allah reunited him with his father, Yaqub alayhi salam, who always said, I trust that Allah will return them all to me. I kept repeating this verse. After the first 6 months, when my children had stayed with him for 4 months, I finally gave up. I reached a point of surrender. It was then that I felt as if I had received an inspiration from Allah, as if he was telling me, they will return, but until then, occupy yourself with something beneficial. I began searching for something meaningful, and I found nothing more beneficial than the Book of Allah, the Quran. I decided to fill my time with something that would draw me closer to Allah. I committed myself to worship, I would read the Quran and focus on the verses. Indeed, Allah loves those who are constantly repentant and loves those who purify themselves. Allah loves the patient ones. Allah loves those who rely upon Him. Whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, I would do. Although I was already practicing, I dedicated myself wholeheartedly. I ensured my prayers were on time, made sure my prayer mat was clean, and even changed my clothes before praying and perfumed myself. I maintained my prayers and my daily dhikr. Previously, I would say dhikr without much thought, but now I felt each word. I told myself that no matter what else I pursued in this world, nothing would compare to the benefit of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I started finding peace and tranquility from within. This inner calm began to spread to those around me, improving even my relationships. My father would call me to do things and I would immediately comply, serving him without delay. One of the blessings I believe that helped bring about relief was my parents' satisfaction. I strived to make them happy. Even if they called me just once, I would understand their needs and do it immediately. Another significant practice was continuous istighfar. I would constantly say astaghfirullah, day and night, even as I slept, hoping that Allah would reunite our family and forgive any sins that could have caused my ordeal. We often do things without realizing they are wrong because we grew up with them. I avoided gatherings where backbiting occurred. Even if someone was merely complaining about another person, I distanced myself. I would ask them if they wanted a solution. I could advise and work things out between them. However, if they just wanted to talk negatively about that person for whatever reason, I wouldn't participate in gossip. They would get embarrassed and stop. I believe that whoever defends their fellow Muslim, Allah will protect them. I started to notice changes. When he tried to provoke me, I would respond calmly with, "It will be good, inshallah," and nothing more. I firmly believed that whatever is meant for me will always find its way to me, and whatever passes me by was never meant for me. If Allah decreed something for me, it would come, no matter who tried to prevent it. And if it wasn't meant for me, nothing could bring it to me. There were conversations between us where I could see that his knowledge of religion was limited. He thought that by saying "you're divorced" 2 more times since I left, that it was final and there's no option to return. So I spoke to the scholar to clarify our situation, and he explained that our divorce wasn't to the point of no return as he thought. Saying "you are divorced" after I had already left the house didn't count as further divorce declarations. He asked for his number to talk to him to try and resolve the problem between us. He called a few times, but he didn't answer. Through continuous istighfar, reciting the Quran, especially after every prayer, and holding on to night prayers and heartfelt dua, I felt changes. The dua made in the night prayer is like an arrow that does not miss its target. I learned to forgive. Allah guided me to forgive them. I think to myself, what am I going to benefit? If I held on to resentment, my children would suffer because of it. I'm divorced now, and they have taken my children away from me. I realized there's no better way than to forgive. I made dua during the night prayer for reconciliation, peace between us, and that Allah would make them love me. One day, unexpectedly, he called me. His voice was trembling, as if he was hesitant, both wanting to return and fearing rejection. His pride held him back, but he admitted that he had spoken to the scholar, to the sheikh, and acknowledged our situation. He wanted us to be a family again, and I replied that I needed to pray istikhara and that I'll get back to him. And that was another thing I prayed for, was wisdom. Alhamdulillah, I did not respond impulsively. I prayed istikhara, and later I told him that I wanted a fair dowry and some conditions. My previous dowry was modest, which led to my husband's brother's wives making fun of me for it. At first he hesitated, but then agreed. His voice was still trembling, and I knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had placed love and longing in his heart that hadn't been there 6 months prior. It was as if he had become a new person. It was unbelievable. I realized how true the verse in Surah Nuh was. Seek your Lord's forgiveness. He is ever forgiving. He will send rain upon you in abundance and increase you in wealth and children. I kept holding on to this verse. He agreed to everything. The strange thing is, whenever I'd seek Allah's forgiveness, I'd remember the Quranic verse. Seek your Lord's forgiveness, for He is truly most forgiving. He will shower you with abundant rain and supply you with wealth and children, and give you gardens as well as rivers. SubhanAllah, whenever I would think of this verse, I would start seeking Allah's forgiveness. I swear by Allah, He hadn't given me my delayed dowry, which is given after a divorce. He hadn't paid it and delayed it for 1 whole year. From the moment we divorced till the time we remarried, it was 1 whole year. SubhanAllah, the day I went back, He gave me the delayed money along with the new dowry. That night I had no money, no bank account. I had to create one so He could transfer the funds. And within 1 night my account went from 0 to 55,000. Also, the day I went back, it rained heavily that day in Riyadh. When we went to court to complete the reconciliation, the verse came true. He will send rain upon you in abundance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had provided. He will shower you with abundant rain and supply you with wealth. Instantly, Allah blessed me with money into my bank account. And children. Allah blessed us with 2 boys, one after the other. I wasn't thinking of having children. I had a boy and a girl and I was satisfied, alhamdulillah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to bless us even more, alhamdulillah. My husband hired someone to help me at home, hired a driver for me when we built our new house. He also gave me money every month. I never stopped istighfar. I also forgot to mention I was reading Surah Al-Baqarah daily. And that created a sense of certainty. 100% I was certain that Allah would bless me. Back to the Quranic verse, and give you gardens as well as rivers. The house we built was surrounded by lush greenery, as if you were in heaven, and it had a swimming pool at the back with waterfalls. It was like how you'd imagine heaven to be. I lived some of the best years of my life, and that was from the blessings of istighfar. As long as you are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. May Allah bless you and keep you steadfast. This brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this story. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so do leave a comment below. I'll see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.